notes say, only in the leap of faith will he prove his worth. Impossible, says Jones. Nobody can jump this distance. Geez, he says. We'll wait for just a moment. Kierkegaard is the fellow who defined the leap of faith, the idea that a person cannot wait for ultimate security or perfect proof. One either chooses or does not choose. Or in Star Wars talk, one does or does not. There is no try. Indiana Jones is standing on the edge of a cliff. There is no try, there is do or not do. The words recorded by his wounded father have saved him so far, saving knowledge indeed, but the words now seem to offer him no respite. Doing nothing is not possible, but doing anything is foolish. This dilemma has been on my mind for a while, because one of the consequences of our turbulent years before I arrived is a parlous financial state. We have not been able to raise nearly enough money to sustain the ministry you love. And so we cobble it together, we patch, we do all the things we can. We economize here, we eliminate that, we put that over there, we change job definitions, we do all sorts of things. I've diminished my salary for 4 years. This is not a sustainable path. It is neither forward nor back. It pretends that there is a knowable solution. The facts are challenging. Diminishing numbers of people attend, and diminishing numbers make pledges. An ever-increasing need for funds, if only to pay for health insurance, means that we have less and less that we can do. How can we and the church staff ask for more and not provide more, and yet if we economize and give you less, how will you ever do anything but give even less than that? I'm standing at the edge of an abyss here. And of course, I'm not alone. The challenge facing most houses of worship is exactly this. Since the recession, over 300 churches have defaulted on their mortgages, including mega churches. And I know misery loves company, but that means there are no easy answers. And as I pondered it, words came to me from a better source, that same fellow up there, Mr. Lincoln. In December of 1862, on the eve of issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, in his annual message to Congress, he wrote, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present." Hey, you know this, Steve. Good for you. Yea, it is. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. I had to think anew. I had to stop worrying about budgets and numbers. I had to start saying, what can I do? Fact one, we're $100,000 short in pledges from what we want to spend. Fact number two, you pay me $100,000. Fact three, I could work for nothing. Yep, that's an outlandish notion. It doesn't solve a thing, and yet that's what it took to get me out of the rut. I literally could work for nothing. One answer to our problem is just to take that money and give it back to the church, because that is a path. And as I thought, it became so intriguing that I shared it with some of the church leaders, and they came back saying, that's outlandish. And I said, yeah, it's outlandish. And after listening to their outlandish anxiety, I said, why not make the whole church anxious too? Why should I be alone in this? After all, Lincoln said, we must think anew, not just me must think anew. So let's walk this through for just a minute or two. We're going to think anew without worrying about the consequences, because we're always afraid that if we ask and bring up these dangerous ideas that they might work. Who knows? On the one hand, you'd have an extra $100,000 to do what you want to do, to pay our staff enough to run the programs you love. Every year we've had to cut back, economize. That doesn't make my staff happy. Every year we tell them, do this, and then we say, but don't do it. At least for a year we could pay them as much as we said, tell them to do what we want them to do. Think of the enthusiasm that would be set free if we didn't have to worry about that. If the only person who had to worry was me. One person worried is better than 20, huh? On the other hand, though, what do we do in 2014? I can't start paying you $100,000 a year. It doesn't solve the problem forever. Anyone here know Shel Silverstein's poem or book, The Giving Tree? Lovely tree donates leaves, branches, trunk until it's leveled to the ground and exists no more. I'm not interested in martyrdom. My wife even less. On the other hand, though, there are always people who say, I can't support that church because of that wretched senior minister. Well, what if you gave to the church and not a penny of it went to me? What's your excuse now? On the other hand, there might be those people who think, I love Fred, but the church makes me crazy. I'll just give it to him instead. You see, this is what it means to think anew. To turn over what seems impossible or unwise or unkind, to let your brain out of its ordinary clouds. In a book I'm reading, I found this quote from the notorious atheist Richard Dawkins. He says, thought experiments are not supposed to be realistic. I'm leading you through a thought experiment. He goes on, they are supposed to clarify our thinking about reality. Well, it did for me. As a thought experiment, this unrealistic idea about giving up my salary made me think deeply, not about you, but about me. I realized it was really about my belief in you and the potential of the vision we have to transform lives and communities. This is the hardest part of the sermon. It's going to be hard for me to get through. We are the best church I know for the coming century. Absolutely. And I know a lot of churches. The best one I know, which doesn't mean we're better than anyone, we're just the best one I know. Perhaps uniquely equipped to respond to a world that grows ever more diverse and complex, more spiritually messy all the time. We're ready to be there for the next century. But if we lack the money now, we might not be there for the rest of the century. And that made me think, how could I even dream of accepting a penny from you if it would keep us from moving forward? What does it profit a man to save his life and lose his soul? That's what Jesus said, and I realized that I have invested my soul with you. I would literally work for nothing. I will. I would even leave the job if that's what it took to save you. You are as dear to me as my children. And any loss of mine is nothing if it strengthens you. I blew my own mind away, realizing I'm in love with you. And that means whatever price needs to be paid is not a price too large. It's time to think anew about how we shall be present in the world ahead to sustain this precious thing called Fountain Street Church. And part of that will mean questioning all the assumptions we have about how we raise money or what matters most. For example, maybe you want to buy a car in the next year or two, but you have to ask, well, if I do that, I can't raise my pledge. Ask yourself why. One is more important than the other. That's all I'm asking. This building we love drains money away like water, but we need it, and it is a community resource. Perhaps we should do what other churches have done that have a beautiful building, literally give it to the community through a separate organization, a charitable organization that would then raise money to sustain the building which we would live in and which the community would share. We should think about this because our mission is not our building. It is a way we express our mission. Should we invite another congregation to worship with us, as my colleague congregation in Tulsa has done with the Pentecostal Church? I've been approached by a Buddhist organization that would like to worship here, be part of our larger community. Should we do that? In other words, we need to think anew and act anew and disenthrall ourselves. So there's Indiana Jones looking out into thin air, and he lifts up his leg and puts it down and discovers there's a bridge painted exactly like the vision of the wall on the far side. So it's invisible to him while it was looking at him right in the face. He did not know it existed until he stepped onto it. That is the leap of faith. You have to believe a bridge exists, and you must take the first step onto it before you know it's there. No evidence, no thinking, no analysis will put it there. You have to put it all in, as Indiana Jones did, as Lincoln did, as I would do, and still might. The new year is a time to think anew and act anew. Can we be as bold as Lincoln, as daring as Indiana? Can we step into the unknown without knowing what's on the other side, but knowing we have to go there? It's a daunting and scary thing. Lord knows I'm scared, especially when you can't see your way across the abyss. But I absolutely believe there is a way. Even if we don't see it, there is a way. And if I don't know where it is, I'm just going to step into the air and hope it's there. We can find it, but we can only find it by doing it, by trusting there is a bridge. Lincoln did. Indiana did. If we do it, I can just about guarantee it'll blow your mind. I do love you. Let's do it some more. Amen and amen. The song Follow the Drinking Gourd is like the Kings, except instead of kings following the Eastern Star, there are people in bondage looking for the Big Dipper. That's what the drinking gourd is. It's the Big Dipper that points to the Little Dipper. So instead of being kings as you were on the way into church, I want you to be slaves on the way out of church, liberated by following the star that takes you to the new place, the place you haven't been yet, the place you don't even know exists. It's like stepping into the abyss. But you got to go. Let's follow the drinking gourd.